What's up YouTube, and welcome back to the Laravel and GraphQL tutorial. My name is Christopher Moore, and in today's video we're going to go over mutations so we can add new data to our database. We'll start by defining our own mutation that will set the necessary arguments to create a new user. Then we'll take a look at how we can add some rules to our fields and return a custom payload to include our API token. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is add a new field to our mutation type. We'll call it create user, and it will return a user. And in order to create a new user, we're going to need a name, an email, and a password. And Lighthouse provides a helper function called bcrypt. And if we look at the directives here, we can add bcrypt to a field, and once it gets to our resolver, it will already have the bcrypt function applied to the input. All right, so we're going to create our own resolver. So field resolver user mutator, and we'll use a create method. All right, so if I go to my mutations, I'll create user mutator class, and I'll just copy auth. Rename it, get rid of our imports and this code, and we need to rename the function create. Okay, so we just need to return app user create args, and if I go to my user model, we'll see fillable, we have name, email, and password, so we don't need to individually assign those. So we'll just go ahead and create or return our new user. So if I go to playground, actually want to run a mutation. We want to run it on our create user field. Name, Christopher Moore. Email, chris@newwavecommerce.com. Password is secret. And we'll grab our ID and email address from the new user. All right, so we got an ID of 12, and there's our email address. Okay, so next, typically when you deal with input, you probably need to run some validation. So going back to the Lighthouse docs, we have a directive available to us called rules, which takes an apply argument and takes an array of rules that are available from Laravel's validation. So anything you find in the validation here, where's the list? There we go. This list here, you'll be able to apply as a rule inside your schema. It also supports custom rules as well. All right, so we'll say our email address, rules apply. 1 needs to be an actual email, and 2 needs to be unique inside of our users table. All right, so if I try to rerun this, I'll get a validation method or validation error. The email address has already been taken. Okay, so that's how we would add validation. Next, let's say that for a mutation, when somebody creates a new user, we just want to go ahead and give them their API token. So in order to do that, we can't just return a user. We actually have to return a different type of object. So we'll create a new type, and we'll call this create user payload. And we'll say we'll return a user, but we're also going to return a token, which is going to be a string. All right, and we'll switch this to create user payload. Okay, so now all we need to do is go back to our mutator class. This is going to be a user, and actually we'll say equals new. You can type this out, get rid of that. We want to save our token, so we'll say token equals string random 60, and user API token equals token, user save. And now, instead of just returning the user, we'd actually return an array. So we have our user and we have our token. All right, so I'll save this. Now I should get an error here because we are not just getting the user back, now we're getting that create user payload. So say off my user model, I want to grab my ID and email address, and then to log in, I want to grab my token, and because we're adding validation, I'll just slightly change my email address, and there we go. Now we get our user and our token. All right, so in the next video, we'll go through some helper directives that Lighthouse provides to us to create new models, and as well as applying middleware to our mutations as well. So see you in the next video.